The war had been raging for 6 months, and the hegemony was facing something they had never experienced before: prolonged resistance from a determined enemy. Fleet Commander Vextar stood before the High Council of the Galactic Hegemony trying to explain why a primitive human species was still fighting when they should have surrendered after the first battle. The humans continue to resist despite suffering massive casualties, Vextar reported to the assembled alien leaders. Their colonies have been destroyed, their fleets decimated, yet they refuse to surrender. They fight with tactics that defy all military logic. The council leader, a massive creature from the hegemony's founding species, spoke with obvious displeasure. Commander Vextar, you assured us this conquest would be completed within 1 solar cycle. The humans have cost us more ships than our last 10 campaigns combined. Explain this failure. Vextar's forearms moved nervously as he tried to justify his force's performance. The humans employ suicidal tactics that our military doctrine cannot counter effectively. They ram our ships, detonate their own vessels as weapons, and fight to the death rather than surrender when surrounded. Back in human space, Dr. Nathan Pierce was proving to be correct about hegemony psychology. Intercepted alien communications revealed growing discord within their coalition. As member species began questioning the invasion's costs, several alien civilizations had contributed ships to the hegemony fleet, expecting an easy victory and quick profits from human resources. Admiral, the alien alliance is starting to fracture, Nathan reported during the morning briefing. 3. Member species have already withdrawn their fleets, and others are demanding explanations for the massive casualties they're suffering. Admiral Carter studied the intelligence reports with satisfaction. So our strategy of making every battle cost them dearly is working exactly as we hoped. They expected easy conquest, and instead, they're getting a war of attrition that's bleeding them dry. Amy Rodriguez had successfully deployed her electromagnetic pulse weapons throughout the human fleet. The new technology was proving devastatingly effective against hegemony biomechanical systems. Alien ships that had seemed invulnerable were now being disabled or destroyed by weapons that specifically targeted their organic components. Captain Gary Wilson commanded one of the first ships equipped with Amy's EMP weapons. His cruiser, Defiant, had engaged a hegemony battle group near Jupiter and achieved something remarkable. He had won a straight fight against superior numbers using superior technology, rather than desperate tactics. Admiral, this is Captain Wilson, reporting successful engagement with enemy forces, Gary transmitted after the battle. The new EMP weapons disrupted their shield generators and weapon systems. We destroyed 4 alien vessels without losing a single ship. The success of the EMP weapons marked a turning point in the war. For the first time, human forces could engage hegemony ships on equal terms instead of relying purely on courage and cunning. Admiral Carter immediately ordered maximum production of the new weapon systems. Fleet Commander Vextar received the disturbing reports about human electromagnetic weapons with growing alarm. His technical analysts confirmed that the devices were specifically designed to disrupt hegemony biotechnology. The humans had somehow discovered fundamental weaknesses in alien systems and developed countermeasures. How could a primitive species develop such sophisticated weapons? Vextar demanded from his science officers. The response was troubling. Commander, the humans appear to learn and adapt much faster than our previous opponents. They study our technology during combat and quickly develop counters to our advantages. Their rate of innovation exceeds our predictive models. Dr. Pierce intercepted communications between hegemony member species that revealed the depth of their growing problems. The aliens were not just losing ships, they were losing confidence in their leadership and their cause. Several species were actively discussing withdrawal from the coalition. Lieutenant Commander Karen Lewis had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. Her team of 20 Marines would board the hegemony flagship and attempt to capture their command codes. The plan required getting close enough to the massive alien vessel to launch boarding pods without being detected. Karen's ship, Brave Spirit, approached the enemy flagship hidden among the debris of a recent battle. Her crew had disguised their vessel to look like a damaged hegemony scout ship using wreckage from previous engagements. The deception worked perfectly, as alien sensors identified them as friendlies. Boarding pods launching in 30 seconds, Karen announced to her team. Remember, we need those command codes intact, so watch your fire around their computer systems. The boarding pod struck the alien flagship's hull and burned through the armor plating within seconds. Karen's Marines poured into the ship's corridors and immediately encountered heavy resistance from hegemony security forces. The fighting was brutal and close quarters as humans and aliens battled through the ship's narrow passages. Karen led her team toward the command center following intelligence provided by captured alien personnel. The ship's layout was confusing and alien, but her Marines adapted quickly to the strange environment. Human flexibility was proving superior to alien rigidity, even in ship-to-ship combat. The breakthrough came when Karen's technical specialist, Sergeant Bob Martinez, accessed an alien computer terminal and began downloading command protocols. Lieutenant, I'm getting massive amounts of data including fleet positions, communication codes, and tactical plans. The information Bob downloaded changed everything. Human forces now had access to hegemony communications and could predict their movements with unprecedented accuracy. Admiral Carter used the intelligence to set trap after trap for alien forces, who had no idea their security had been compromised. Commander Vextar found his forces being ambushed repeatedly by humans who seemed to know exactly where and when his ships would appear. His carefully planned attacks were being countered before they began. Worse yet, his own member species were questioning his competence as losses mounted. Commander, several allied fleets are demanding permission to withdraw from the campaign, his aide reported nervously. They claim the costs exceed any possible benefits from conquering human space. Vextar realized he was facing the collapse of his coalition. The species that had joined the hegemony for easy profits were abandoning him as soon as the fighting became difficult. Only his core military remained committed to the invasion. The psychological impact of prolonged resistance was devastating hegemony morale. Dr. Pierce had predicted this outcome based on his analysis of their mindset. The aliens had never learned to cope with determined opposition because they had never faced it before. Admiral Carter coordinated the largest human counteroffensive of the war, using intelligence from Karen's mission. Every available ship was committed to simultaneous attacks on hegemony positions throughout human space. The aliens found themselves fighting defensive battles on dozens of fronts. Captain Jake Morrison, whose initial contact had started the war, now commanded his own warship equipped with the latest human weapons. His vessel, New Dawn, was part of the massive fleet heading for the final confrontation with Vextar's forces. Admiral, this is Captain Morrison reporting fleet ready for final assault, Jake transmitted, as hundreds of human ships prepared for battle. All vessels are equipped with EMP weapons and we have complete intelligence on enemy positions. The stage was set for a climactic battle that would determine the fate of both civilizations. The hegemony had come to conquer what they thought was a weak and primitive species. Instead, they had discovered an enemy that grew stronger through adversity and refused to be defeated no matter what the cost. Fleet Commander Vextar prepared for what he knew might be his final battle. His coalition was crumbling, his forces were demoralized, and the humans seemed to anticipate his every move. The species he had expected to conquer in days had instead taught him the true meaning of determined resistance. The war was about to reach its conclusion, but the outcome was no longer certain. The humans had proven that superior technology meant nothing without the will to use it effectively. The hegemony was about to learn that some enemies cannot be defeated because they simply refuse to lose. The 72-hour deadline passed without a single human colony surrendering. Fleet Commander Vexitar stood on the bridge of his flagship staring at the tactical displays in disbelief. Every previous species had capitulated within hours of his ultimatum. Some had surrendered immediately upon seeing the hegemony fleet. The humans were behaving in a way that defied all his experience. Status report on human defensive preparations. Vextar commanded his tactical officer. The smaller alien consulted his instruments before responding. Commander, all human military vessels have taken defensive positions around their colonies. Civilian populations have been evacuated to underground shelters. Their communications indicate they are preparing for extended resistance rather than surrender. Vextar's forearms moved in agitation. Impossible. Our analysis shows their weapons cannot penetrate our shields and their ships are centuries behind our technology. They must realize that resistance is futile. Admiral Carter broadcast humanity's official response across all frequencies, ensuring the alien fleet would receive the message. To the forces of the Galactic Hegemony, this is Admiral Lisa Carter, speaking for all of humanity. We reject your ultimatum and your demands for surrender. Humanity has never bowed to tyrants, and we will not start now. If you want our worlds, you will have to take them by force. The response sent shockwaves through the Hegemony command structure. Dr. Kethmos, the fleet's xenobiologist, had studied intercepted human communications for weeks. His analysis suggested humans were a young species with limited military experience. They should have surrendered immediately when faced with superior technology. Captain Monica Davis received her orders while patrolling near Proxima Centauri with a small flotilla of human destroyers. The alien scout force approaching her position consisted of 12 Hegemony vessels, each one larger and more powerful than anything in her fleet. By conventional military logic, she should retreat and wait for reinforcements. Monica studied the tactical display and made a decision that would have shocked her alien opponents. All ships prepare for attack run. We're going to hit them hard and fast before they know what's happening. Her communications officer looked confused. Captain, the aliens outgun us 10-1. Shouldn't we wait for backup from the main fleet? Monica smiled grimly as she plotted her attack course. The aliens expect us to run or surrender. We're going to do neither. Sometimes the best strategy is the one your enemy never sees coming. The human ships accelerated toward the alien scout force at maximum speed. Monica's plan was simple and completely insane by traditional military standards. Her destroyers would ram the alien vessels at high velocity while firing everything they had. The strategy relied on shocking the enemy and causing maximum damage before they could respond effectively. The Hegemony scout commander watched the human approach with growing confusion. His sensors clearly showed the humans were outnumbered and outgunned. Their attack made no tactical sense unless they were planning to surrender at the last moment. He prepared to accept their submission as soon as they came within communication range. Monica's flagship struck the lead alien vessel at nearly 30% of light speed. The impact destroyed both ships instantly, but the explosion also disabled 2 nearby Hegemony vessels. Her remaining destroyers followed up with close-range weapons fire that the aliens had never expected to face. The alien scout force found itself in chaos. Their weapons were designed for long-range combat against enemies who would maintain safe distances. Human ships closing to point-blank range and ramming their vessels was a tactic no Hegemony commander had ever encountered. Monica's second-in-command, Commander Pete Johnson, followed her example by ramming his destroyer into another alien ship. The explosion lit up space for thousands of kilometers as both vessels were vaporized. The surviving human ships continued their attack, trading their lives for maximum damage to the enemy fleet. When the battle ended, only 3 alien vessels remained operational out of the original 12. The entire human flotilla had been destroyed, but they had accomplished something unprecedented in Hegemony history. A vastly inferior force had inflicted severe casualties on Hegemony ships through tactics that bordered on suicidal. News of the engagement spread throughout the Hegemony fleet. Commander Vextar studied the battle reports with growing unease. The humans had fought like cornered animals, showing no concern for their own survival as long as they could damage their enemies. This was not the behavior his forces were trained. To counter, Amy Rodriguez worked frantically in her laboratory aboard Luna Station, developing countermeasures against Hegemony technology. Her analysis of their energy signatures had revealed crucial weaknesses in their biomechanical systems. The aliens relied heavily on organic components that could be disrupted by properly tuned electromagnetic pulses. Admiral, I think I've found a way to level the playing field, Amy reported during the daily strategy briefing. The alien ships use living tissue integrated with their mechanical systems. If we can generate electromagnetic pulses at specific frequencies, we might be able to disrupt their organic components. Admiral Carter leaned forward with interest. How long would you need to develop these weapons, and could they be installed on our existing ships? Amy consulted her notes. Give me 48 hours and I can have prototype EMP weapons ready for field testing. The beauty of this approach is that the aliens have never faced opponents using this specific type of electromagnetic warfare. Dr. Pierce continued his psychological analysis of hegemony behavior patterns. His team had intercepted several alien communications that revealed growing uncertainty within their command structure. Admiral, the aliens are starting to question their own tactics. They've never faced opponents who fight back effectively, and their rigid military doctrine isn't adapting well to human unpredictability. The hegemony's next major assault targeted 3 human colonies simultaneously. Vextar believed that dividing human defenses would make victory easier. He could not have made a worse strategic decision. Captain Steve Matthews commanded the defense of the Titan shipyards, humanity's largest military construction facility. When 60 hegemony ships approached his position, he had only 20 human vessels to defend the massive orbital complex. The aliens expected quick victory against such overwhelming odds. Steve studied the tactical situation and realized conventional defense was hopeless. Instead, he ordered his ships to use Titan's ring system as cover, while civilian workers continued launching newly completed warships directly into the battle. Every ship that comes off the production line goes straight into combat. We'll build our fleet while we fight. The strategy worked brilliantly. Human ships would emerge from the construction bays and immediately attack the nearest alien vessel before disappearing back into the ring debris. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to multiply during battle. Hegemony forces struggled to target human ships hiding among the ice and rock of Titan's rings. Their weapons were too powerful for precision targeting in such cluttered space. Every shot they fired created more debris that provided additional cover for human vessels. The battle raged for 18 hours with both sides taking heavy casualties. When it ended, the humans had lost the Titan yards but had destroyed 42 hegemony ships in the process. More importantly, they had proven that human determination could overcome superior technology through superior tactics and sheer bloody-minded refusal to quit. Commander Vextar received reports from all 3 battle zones. His forces had achieved their tactical objectives by capturing or destroying the targeted colonies. However, his casualties were far higher than any previous hegemony campaign. The humans were making every meter of space cost dearly. Analysis of human tactical patterns, Vextar demanded from his strategic planning staff. The response troubled him deeply. Commander, the humans appear to prioritize inflicting casualties over preserving their own forces. They use ramming attacks, suicide runs, and other tactics that result in mutual destruction. Our predictive models cannot account for an enemy willing to trade lives at disadvantageous ratios. For the first time since beginning the invasion, Fleet Commander Vextar began to wonder if the hegemony had underestimated their opponents. The humans were supposed to be primitive and weak. Instead, they were proving to be the most dangerous enemy his people had ever faced. The war was just beginning, but already the aliens were learning a harsh lesson about humanity. When backed into a corner, humans didn't surrender or flee. They fought with desperate courage and innovative tactics that turned their apparent weaknesses into unexpected strengths. The hegemony had never encountered anything like humans' stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Colonel Ryan Brooks had prepared for this moment his entire career, but nothing could have made him ready for the reality of hostile first contact. He sat in the secure conference room beneath Sol Defense Command headquarters, surrounded by screens showing the alien fleet's positions. The hegemony ships had stopped just outside the orbit of Pluto and were waiting for humanity's response to their ultimatum. Ryan had been chosen to lead humanity's first contact protocols because of his background in both military strategy and diplomatic relations. He had studied every theoretical scenario involving alien contact and had helped write the official response procedures. Now those theoretical situations had become terrifyingly real. Admiral Carter entered the room carrying a tablet filled with intelligence reports. Her face showed the strain of the past 24 hours as defense forces across human space scrambled to prepare for possible war. Colonel, the aliens have agreed to a communication link. They want to discuss terms for our surrender. Ryan nodded and activated the main communication array. The screen flickered and then showed the interior of what must be the alien command ship. The creature facing him was even more intimidating than Jake Morrison's descriptions had suggested. It stood nearly 9 feet tall with 4 powerful arms and skin that looked like living metal. Its eyes glowed with an inner light that seemed to pierce right through him. "I am Fleet Commander Vextar of the Galactic Hegemony," the alien said in its grinding mechanical voice. "You will identify yourself and your authority to speak for your species." Ryan straightened in his chair and looked directly into those glowing eyes. "I am Colonel Ryan Brooks, representing Earth Defense Command and the United Colonies of Humanity. I have been authorized to negotiate on behalf of our species." Vextar made a sound that might have been dismissive laughter. "There will be no negotiation, human. You will surrender unconditionally or face complete destruction. Those are the only terms the hegemony offers to primitive species." The alien commander gestured with one arm and the screen split to show images of burning worlds. Cities reduced to ash, orbital stations torn apart, entire populations fleeing in terror. 47 star systems have learned the price of resistance. Your species can choose quick submission or slow annihilation. Ryan felt his anger rising but kept his voice calm and professional. "Commander Vextar, humanity values its freedom above all else. We are prepared to defend ourselves against any threat, including your hegemony. Perhaps we can find a peaceful solution that respects both our people's interests." The alien commander's 4 arms moved in what Ryan realized was probably laughter. "Your scout ship was examined and found to contain technology centuries behind our capabilities. Your worlds are defended by weapons that could not damage our smallest vessels. What possible threat could your species pose to the combined might of 12 advanced civilizations?" Unknown to the aliens, Amy Rodriguez was listening to every word from her position at Luna Station's advanced sensor array. As the chief engineer responsible for monitoring deep space, she had been tracking the alien fleet since Jake Morrison's first report. Her sensors were picking up energy signatures and scanning data that painted a complex picture of hegemony, technology. Amy watched the energy patterns flowing through the alien ships and noticed something interesting. Their weapons charged in predictable cycles, and their power distribution seemed inefficient by human standards. The aliens had clearly focused on overwhelming firepower rather than tactical flexibility. Their ships were powerful, but they followed rigid operational patterns. She opened a secure channel to Admiral Carter's conference room. "Admiral, I'm seeing some unusual characteristics in the alien fleet's energy signatures. Their weapon systems appear to have significant limitations that we might be able to exploit." Back in the negotiation room, Ryan was trying to buy time for Earth's defenses while learning as much as possible about the enemy. "Commander Vexatar, your fleet is certainly impressive, but surely you can see the value in having humanity as an ally, rather than a conquered territory. We could offer scientific knowledge and resources in exchange for peaceful coexistence." Vexatar's glowing eyes seemed to brighten with what might have been amusement. "Your species has nothing to offer the hegemony except labor and tribute. Your worlds will be stripped of useful resources and your populations relocated to serve our needs. This is the fate of all conquered species." The alien commander activated another display showing vast industrial complexes staffed by countless alien workers. "The hegemony grows stronger with each conquest. Your people will contribute to our expansion across the galaxy, whether they choose to or not." Dr. Nathan Pierce watched the negotiations from his office in the Xenopsychology department. As humanity's leading expert on alien behavior and communication, he was analyzing every gesture and vocal pattern displayed by the hegemony commander. What he was seeing troubled him deeply. Nathan opened his own communication link to the command center. "Admiral, I need to speak with you immediately about the psychological profiles of our visitors. I'm seeing behavioral patterns that suggest this species has never encountered effective resistance." The negotiation continued for another hour, with Vextar becoming increasingly impatient with Ryan's attempts at diplomacy. The alien commander finally stood to his full imposing height and pointed all 4 arms toward the camera. "Human, your time for discussion has expired. You have 68 of your hours remaining to announce your complete surrender. Any delay will result in the destruction of your outermost colonies as a demonstration of hegemony power." The communication link went dead, leaving Ryan staring at a blank screen. He turned to Admiral Carter, who had been monitoring the entire exchange. "Admiral, it's clear they have no interest in any solution except our complete submission. We need to prepare for war." Admiral Carter nodded grimly. Colonel, I want you to coordinate with Dr. Pierce and Engineer Rodriguez immediately. If we're going to survive this, we need to understand everything possible about their capabilities and psychology. Amy Rodriguez was already working on detailed analysis of the alien fleet's energy patterns. Her scanners had detected several interesting anomalies during the demonstration of their weapon systems. The aliens were clearly powerful, but their technology showed signs of overspecialization that might create vulnerabilities. Dr. Pierce arrived at the command center within minutes, carrying files full of behavioral analysis. Admiral the Hegemony Commander displayed classic signs of a predator species that has never encountered prey capable of fighting back effectively. Their entire approach suggests they expect easy victory based on intimidation and overwhelming force. Admiral Carter studied the reports from both Amy and Nathan. So you're saying they might not be prepared for the kind of resistance humans are capable of mounting? Nathan nodded enthusiastically. Exactly, Admiral. Their psychological profiles suggest a species that has grown accustomed to quick surrenders and easy conquests. They may not have developed strategies for dealing with opponents who refuse to give up. Amy pointed to her energy analysis charts. And their technology reflects that same overconfidence. Their weapons are incredibly powerful, but they follow predictable patterns. If we can force them into extended combat, their systems might not adapt well to changing tactical situations. Ryan looked at both reports and felt the first spark of hope since this crisis began. So we might actually have a chance if we can survive their initial assault and force them into the kind of prolonged conflict they're not used to fighting. Admiral Carter activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships and stations. This is Admiral Carter. Humanity has been given an ultimatum by a hostile alien force. We have rejected their demands for surrender, and will defend our freedom with everything we have. Begin immediate implementation of emergency defense protocols. Across human space, the response was immediate and determined. Civilians began evacuating to harden shelters while military forces prepared for the fight of their lives. The aliens had made one critical error in their calculations. They had assumed humans would react like the 47 other species they had conquered. They were about to learn that assumption could cost them everything. Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the cargo manifest one more time. The New Frontier was a simple transport ship carrying mining equipment to the colony on Kepler 442b. Nothing fancy about his job, but it paid well and kept him among the stars where he belonged. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through space at a steady pace toward the distant mining world. Jake had been making this run for 3 years now. He knew every asteroid and space station along the route. The journey usually took 2 weeks, and he enjoyed the peace of deep space. No crowds, no noise, just him and the endless black dotted with stars. His coffee maker gurgled in the small galley as he prepared for another routine day of travel. The proximity alarm started beeping softly. Jake frowned and walked over to the control panel. His sensors showed something big approaching from the edge of the system. Very big. He adjusted the scanner range and his coffee cup slipped from his hand, shattering on the metal floor. 200 ships moved in perfect formation toward human space. They were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The ships looked alive somehow, with curved surfaces that seemed to pulse with a strange light. Each vessel was at least twice the size of the largest human battleship. They moved with purpose, and their course would take them straight through human territory toward Earth itself. Jake grabbed his communication headset and switched to the emergency frequency. His hands shook as he spoke into the microphone. This is Captain Jake Morrison aboard the transport ship New Frontier calling Sol Defense Command. I have 200 unknown vessels approaching human space from Sector 7. They are massive and moving in military formation. Please respond immediately. Static filled his headset for several long seconds. Then a calm female voice answered. New Frontier, this is Admiral Lisa Carter at Sol Defense Command. Can you confirm the number and type of vessels you are observing? Jake looked at his scanner, again. The alien ships had spread out into attack formation. Admiral, the count is confirmed at 200 vessels. They appear to be warships of unknown design. They are heading directly for our colonies, and their formation suggests hostile intent. Admiral Carter's voice remained steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. New Frontier, maintain your position and continue monitoring. Do not approach the unknown vessels under any circumstances. We are dispatching reconnaissance ships to your location. The alien fleet continued its advance. Jake watched in fascination and growing fear as the ships moved with impossible precision. No human fleet could maintain such perfect formation at those speeds. Whatever species built these vessels had technology far beyond human capabilities. One of the alien ships broke formation and approached Jake's position. It was easily 10 times larger than the New Frontier, and its surface seemed to shift and change as he watched. The ship stopped just outside weapon range, and Jake felt a chill run down his spine. His communication system crackled with an incoming signal. The voice that spoke was clearly not human. It sounded like grinding metal mixed with something that might have been speech. Human vessel, you will maintain position and prepare for boarding. Any attempt to flee or communicate will result in your immediate destruction. Jake's mouth went dry. He reached for his weapon but realized how useless it would be against creatures who could build ships like these. The alien vessel moved closer, and Jake could see strange patterns of light moving across its hull. It looked like a living thing, made of metal and energy. New Frontier, this is Sol Defense Command. Admiral Carter's voice came through his headset. We are reading an alien vessel in your immediate vicinity. What is your status? Jake whispered into his microphone, afraid. The aliens might somehow hear him. Admiral, they have demanded I prepare for boarding. Their ship is right next to mine, and they threaten to destroy me if I try to run or communicate. There was a pause before Admiral Carter responded. Understood, New Frontier. Continue transmitting as long as possible. We need all the intelligence you can provide about these vessels and their capabilities. Strange sounds began echoing through Jake's ship. Something was attaching to his hull. The aliens were coming aboard whether he liked it or not. He could hear metal being cut and torn as they forced their way inside. Jake grabbed his pistol and took cover behind the navigation console. The airlock door exploded inward with tremendous force. 3 creatures entered his ship, and Jake's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. They stood 8 feet tall with 4 arms each. Their skin looked like dark metal, and their eyes glowed with the same strange light he had seen on their ships. They moved with fluid grace despite their size and carried weapons that hummed with energy. The lead creature spoke in that same grinding voice. Human, you will provide information about your species' military capabilities and colony locations. Cooperation will result in quick death. Resistance will result in prolonged suffering. Jake kept his pistol trained on the alien leader even though he knew it would probably be useless. I'm just a cargo pilot. I don't know anything about military secrets. The creature made a sound that might have been laughter. Your species' communications are primitive and easy to intercept. We have already learned much about your defenses. You will simply confirm what we have discovered. Through his headset, Jake could hear Admiral Carter calling his name repeatedly. The aliens had not noticed the small communication device yet. He hoped they would continue to ignore it long enough for Earth to learn something useful about these invaders. The alien leader gestured with one of its 4 arms, and the other creatures began examining Jake's ship systems. They worked with incredible speed and efficiency, downloading data from his computers and scanning every piece of equipment on board. Your technology is even more primitive than our initial observations suggested, the leader said as its subordinates worked. Your species will offer no meaningful resistance to the hegemony. We grant you 72 of your hours to surrender completely. Any colony or ship that has not submitted by then will be destroyed as an example to others. Jake felt his anger rising despite his fear. Humans don't surrender that easily. You might be surprised by what we're capable of when we're backed into a corner. The alien leader moved closer, and Jake could smell something like burning metal coming from its body. 47 species have said similar words before their worlds burned. Your courage is admirable, but irrelevant. The hegemony has conquered star systems across this galaxy. Your small collection of planets will simply be added to our empire. The creatures finished their examination and began moving toward the airlock. The leader paused and looked back at Jake. Broadcast our message to your leaders, human. 72 hours, complete surrender or complete destruction. Those are the only choices your species will be given. The aliens left as quickly as they had arrived. Jake slumped against his control panel as their ship moved away to rejoin the fleet. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely operate his radio controls. Admiral Carter, this is Jake Morrison. The aliens have left my ship. They demand complete human surrender within 72 hours, or they will destroy every human colony and ship they can find. The final battle began at the edge of the Sol system, where the remnants of the Hegemony fleet had gathered for their last desperate assault on Earth. Fleet Commander Vextar commanded barely 60 ships from his original force of 200. The rest had been destroyed or abandoned by coalition members who had fled when the war turned against them. Admiral Carter watched the alien approach from her command ship, Indomitable, surrounded by the largest human fleet ever assembled. Ships from every colony and outpost had answered her call for the defense of Earth. Merchant vessels armed with military weapons fought alongside purpose-built warships in a display of unity that would have been impossible without the alien threat. All ships, this is Admiral Carter, she broadcast across the human fleet. The enemy has come to our home system seeking to end our resistance once and for all. Today we show them what humans are truly capable of when we fight for everything we hold dear. Captain Jake Morrison piloted his ship New Dawn as part of the civilian volunteer fleet that had insisted on joining the battle. His transport had been modified with military shields and weapons until it barely resembled its original design. Thousands of other civilian captains had made similar modifications, turning cargo haulers and passenger liners into improvised warships. The Hegemony ships opened fire at maximum range, using their devastating energy weapons. Human vessels scattered and reformed in the fluid tactics they had perfected through months of desperate combat. The aliens still possessed superior firepower, but they were facing an enemy that had learned to use speed and unpredictability to overcome technological disadvantages. Amy Rodriguez's electromagnetic pulse weapons proved their worth in the opening moments of the battle. Hegemony ships that had seemed invulnerable found their organic systems disrupted and their coordination shattered. The aliens were fighting with technology that had been turned against them by human ingenuity. Direct hit on the enemy flagship, reported Captain Wilson from his cruiser, Defiant. Their shields are fluctuating and I'm reading massive systems failures throughout their ship. Fleet Commander Vextar felt his flagship shudder under the impact of human EMP weapons. His organic control systems were malfunctioning, and his crew was struggling to maintain basic ship functions. The humans had somehow turned the Hegemony's greatest technological advantage into a critical weakness. Dr. Pierce monitored alien communications from his position aboard Admiral Carter's command ship. The intercepted transmissions revealed panic and confusion within the Hegemony ranks as their careful battle plans fell apart under human assault. Admiral, the aliens are requesting permission to withdraw, but their commander is refusing to retreat. The battle raged across the solar system as human ships pursued fleeing Hegemony vessels through the asteroid belt and beyond. Captain Monica Davis, who had survived her ramming attack months earlier, only to be captured and later rescued, led a squadron of fighters in devastating attacks on alien shield generators. Vextar realized his invasion force was collapsing around him. Ship after ship reported critical damage or total systems failure under the relentless human assault. The species he had expected to conquer within days had instead destroyed his fleet and shattered his coalition through sheer determination and tactical brilliance. Commander, we must retreat while we still have ships capable of faster-than-light travel, his tactical officer urged desperately. The humans have broken our formation, and we cannot maintain organized resistance. The alien commander looked at his tactical displays showing the destruction of his once mighty fleet. Red icons marked the positions of destroyed or disabled Hegemony vessels, while green markers indicated human ships that seemed to multiply even as he watched. His enemy was growing stronger while his own forces crumbled. Captain Jake Morrison saw his opportunity when the alien flagship's shields finally collapsed under sustained EMP bombardment. His heavily modified transport ship accelerated toward the massive vessel on what everyone knew was a final attack run. The New Dawn had been built for carrying cargo, not ramming enemy warships, but Jake was determined to end the threat that had started with his first distress call. Admiral, this is Jake Morrison making final approach on the enemy command ship, he transmitted as defensive fire from the alien vessel tore pieces from his hull. "It's been an honor serving with all of you." The impact destroyed both ships in a brilliant explosion that lit up space for millions of kilometers. The Hegemony flagship, symbol of alien power and superiority, died along with the human transport that had delivered the killing blow. Jake Morrison's sacrifice marked the end of organized alien resistance in human space. The surviving Hegemony ships fled toward the edge of the solar system with human forces in hot pursuit. Vextar had transferred his command to a smaller vessel after his flagship's destruction, but his fleet was beyond salvation. Less than 20 alien ships escaped into faster-than-light travel, carrying news of their devastating defeat back to Hegemony space. Admiral Carter surveyed the aftermath of the battle from her command bridge. The cost had been enormous, with hundreds of human ships destroyed and thousands of brave men and women dead. But they had achieved something that 47 other species had failed to accomplish. They had defeated the Galactic Hegemony in open combat. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy," reported her communications officer. "News of our victory is spreading, and several conquered species are beginning to rebel against Hegemony rule." Dr. Pierce analyzed the intercepted alien communications with growing excitement. "Admiral, the psychological impact of our victory extends far beyond the military defeat. The Hegemony's reputation for invincibility has been shattered. Subject species throughout their empire are questioning why they accepted domination from forces that humans were able to defeat." The war's end brought consequences that neither side had anticipated. The Hegemony found itself facing rebellions on dozens of worlds, as conquered species realized their oppressors were not invincible. The coalition that had seemed unbreakably powerful began fragmenting as member civilizations withdrew to deal with their own internal problems. Amy Rodriguez received reports from across human space about the technological advances sparked by the conflict. Human engineering had made tremendous leaps forward under the pressure of desperate necessity. The electromagnetic pulse weapons were just the beginning of innovations that would reshape human civilization. 6 months after the final battle, Captain Karen Lewis commanded the first human exploration fleet to venture beyond their traditional borders. Her mission was to make contact with the species that had rebelled against Hegemony rule and offer them alliance and support. The humans who had been marked for conquest were now becoming liberators. "This is Captain Lewis of the United Colonies of Humanity, calling any free peoples in this system," she broadcast, as her fleet approached a world recently freed from alien domination. "We come in peace and friendship to offer our support against any who would threaten your freedom." The response came from a species that had been enslaved by the Hegemony for over a century. "Human ships, you are welcome here. We have heard of your great victory and wish to learn how a young species defeated the forces that conquered our worlds." Fleet Commander Vextar's final report to the Hegemony High Council was brief and devastating. "The human conquest has failed completely. Our forces have been destroyed, our coalition has collapsed, and subject species throughout the Empire are in open rebellion. The humans proved impossible to defeat because they refused to accept defeat." The Council leader's response marked the end of an era. "Commander Vextar, you are relieved of command, and the human campaign is officially terminated. All remaining forces will return to defend core Hegemony worlds against the rebellions sparked by our failure." Dr. Pierce completed his analysis of the war's psychological impact with conclusions that would reshape human understanding of interstellar relations. The Hegemony's greatest weakness was their assumption that all species would react to conquest the same way. They had never encountered a civilization that valued freedom more than survival. Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital defense station, watching ships from a dozen formerly enslaved species dock at human ports. The aliens had come seeking alliance with the people who had proven that the Hegemony could be defeated. Humanity had become the symbol of successful resistance throughout the galaxy. The final entry in the official war history summarized the conflict's broader meaning. The Galactic Hegemony crossed into human space expecting to add another conquered territory to their empire. Instead, they discovered that some species cannot be defeated because they refuse to be broken. Their assumption that superior technology guaranteed victory cost them everything they had built over centuries of easy conquest. The humans had won more than a war. They had proven that courage and determination could overcome any odds when combined with intelligence and innovation. The species marked for extinction had instead become the catalyst for galactic freedom. The hegemony that came to conquer humanity had lost not just a campaign, but an entire empire to their fundamental misunderstanding of what they faced.